Welcome to this Orientation Explainer. If you're an incoming first-year student in the BBA management program, well, consider this your official starting line. Together, we're going to unpack exactly what your first semester looks like, giving you a crystal-clear vision of the road ahead on your journey to becoming a global business leader.
Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. We'll conquer this orientation in 5 stages: the starting line, the core pillars, the data and people, the rules and tools, and finally, the path to success.
Starting with Section 1, the starting line, building your foundation.
Now, you might be wondering what this program is really all about. It's not just a random list of classes for you to check off. Think of it as a complete blueprint for your transformation. It's designed specifically to shape you into an effective leader, an entrepreneur, or a strategic consultant who is absolutely ready to manage in today's dynamic, globalized environment.
And that brings us to the number 18. That is the magic number of academic credits you're going to earn this semester. You'll hit that milestone through 6 fundamental courses that perfectly blend high-level theory with real-world practical application. By the time you wrap up these 18 credits, you'll have honed the exact critical thinking abilities that advanced management demands.
Moving right along to Section 2, the core pillars, management and communication.
Your very first course is Principles of Management. I like to think of this as learning the mechanics of a high-performance engine. It breaks down into 4 essential functions. First, planning your strategic objectives. Second, organizing and allocating your resources. Third, leading and really motivating your team. And fourth, controlling, or basically evaluating performance to make sure you're continuously improving.
Up next is effective communication. Because, let's be honest, having brilliant management ideas means absolutely nothing if you can't actually convey them to anyone else. You're going to master the whole shebang, from drafting crisp business correspondence and delivering powerful presentations to handling high-stakes negotiations and cross-cultural teamwork. It's all about giving you the confidence to walk in and command any boardroom.
So, why does all of this matter so much? Well, in today's fiercely interconnected world, professional communication is literally the ultimate key. It's way more than just talking. It's about building strong, lasting relationships with your employees, your customers, stakeholders, and international partners. You're basically learning the universal language of global collaboration.
Which leads us to Section 5, the data and people, analytical and human resources. We're kicking off the data side with quantitative techniques. You're going to dive deep into descriptive statistics to understand past performance, explore forecasting models to predict future trends, and use optimization techniques to make the most efficient choices possible. Essentially, you'll be using mathematical and statistical tools to solve very real, highly complex business problems.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the core outcome. This course isn't just about crunching numbers all day. It's really about developing the evidence-based, logical reasoning that is absolutely crucial for successful managers. It's about making big decisions based on cold, hard facts, rather than just relying on gut feelings.
Then, on the flip side, we have the human element, human resource management. And no, before you ask, it is not just about planning office parties. You'll cover the really vital stuff, like how to recruit top-tier talent, evaluate employee performance, design fair compensation packages, and apply actual motivation theories. The big takeaway here? Managing people effectively is the real secret sauce that drives a company's success.
All right, on to Section 4, the rules and tools, legal and digital competencies.
First up is business law. The overarching goal here is to learn exactly how to minimize organizational risks and protect your business interests, all while maintaining the highest possible ethical standards. Getting a firm grip on this legal framework protects both your company's bottom line and your personal integrity as a leader. It's absolutely crucial.
Rounding out your core courses is computer applications. Because, let's face it, today's business world literally runs on tech. Sure, you'll master standard platforms like word processing and spreadsheets, but you'll also dive into emerging fields like cloud computing, online collaboration, AI and digital transformation, cybersecurity, and business automation. These are the tools that are going to make you a highly adaptable, modern digital worker.
And finally, Section 5, the path to success, navigating academic requirements.
All of your Semester 1 courses are delivered through a beautifully designed, self-paced MOOC platform. This gives you ultimate flexibility, empowering you to study anytime and anywhere. Whether you're sipping an espresso at a coffee shop in Tokyo or just hanging out in your living room in London, you can fit this academic journey seamlessly into your own global schedule.
But hey, while you do have total flexibility, you still need structure. So there's a chronological workflow that sets clear expectations for every single course. Week 1, you study the learning materials. Week 2, you dive in and complete the interactive online activities. Week 3, you prepare and submit an academic paper. And finally, Week 4, you complete an online quiz to test your comprehension.
Now, keep in mind these two compulsory assessments do very different things. Your academic paper is where you get to show your depth, demonstrating critical analysis, deep research, and solid writing skills. The online quiz, on the other hand, evaluates your broad comprehension and measures your overall learning progress. Both are strictly required to pass, so make sure you prepare accordingly for both.
So, there you have it. We've covered the entire roadmap. Are you ready to develop the knowledge and expertise required for success in today's global business environment? Because these 6 foundational courses aren't just a curriculum. They are your springboard to becoming a highly competent, globally recognized business graduate, armed with both a sharp analytical edge and deep human leadership expertise.
The program's manifesto is brilliantly simple. Study anytime, learn anywhere, lead globally. You now have the exact map for your first semester right in your hands. But the real question is, how will you use these tools to shape the future of business? The starting line is right in front of you. Where is it going to take you? Thanks so much for exploring this roadmap with us, and we'll see you in the courses.
So I want you to imagine a university campus for a second. You probably have this default visual locked in your head, right? Like heavy brick buildings, ivy crawling up the sides, maybe those squeaky wooden desks in a really crowded, tiered lecture hall.
Right, the classic academic setup.
Exactly. But toss that image completely, because today, you and I are going to be looking at a fundamentally different architecture. We're talking glowing screens, asynchronous workflows, students collaborating on complex data models from, a cafe in Tokyo to a living room in São Paulo. It is this entirely borderless digital ecosystem.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it forces a total reevaluation of what a campus actually is. Because the source material we are dissecting today for this deep dive, it doesn't just describe a modern learning environment. It operates entirely within one.
Right.
We are looking at the comprehensive Semester 1 roadmap for a modern Bachelor of Business Administration in Management.
And the goal here, the real mission for us today, is to deconstruct this specific 18-credit roadmap. Like, if you want to take someone and forge them into a global leader or an entrepreneur or a strategic consultant in today's world, what are the actual non-negotiable building blocks?
What does that transformation actually require?
Exactly, especially when the business environment is shifting exponentially, like every 6 months.
Right. And to figure that out, we have to look past just the surface of the syllabus. The curriculum outlines 6 foundational courses, but the deeper narrative here is about the synthesis of theory and highly practical digital-first application.
Which is so crucial.
It is. It's about engineering a specific type of professional mindset right out of the gate.
So rather than just marching down the list of these 6 classes chronologically, I was thinking let's group them by how a real organization actually operates and scales.
Oh, I like that approach.
Yeah, because if you are building or running a company today, you always start with the core framework, right? The operational strategy and the people. And the first 2 pillars in this curriculum reflect that perfectly.
BMA 125, Principles of Management, and BMA 155, Human Resource Management.
Let's unpack that management side first. So the first course, BMA 125, when I was looking at this, I couldn't help but compare it to directing a movie.
Directing a movie. Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. You're the director. You need a script, you need a crew, you definitely need a vision and a budget, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And the source text anchors this course in 4 primary management functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, which are basically the exact same things a director does to get a film made.
That's actually a great analogy, because establishing those strategic objectives, your script and your vision, is the fundamental starting point.
Right.
But reading this through a modern lens, you realize those 4 pillars have fundamentally changed in practice. I mean, controlling in an industrial era meant making sure people were physically at their desks from 9 to 5.
Right, clocking in and out.
Exactly. But in a decentralized remote environment, you can't manage by just walking around the office floor. That shift is absolutely central to the curriculum. Planning is no longer about locking in a rigid 5-year trajectory. It's about establishing strategic objectives that can pivot rapidly.
Because the market pivots rapidly.
Exactly. And organizing isn't just drawing a static org chart anymore. It's about dynamic resource allocation across, a dozen different time zones. And leading becomes infinitely more complex when you're trying to project your vision and your company culture through a screen rather than in a physical boardroom.
Right. But I mean, how does a first semester student actually learn to execute that? It feels a little abstract, doesn't it?
It can, but the course grounds it by diving heavily into the mechanics of organizational change. The focus is on why these pillars matter. Think about the friction any company experiences when, say, they implement a new technology or pivot a product line.
Oh, it's always a nightmare. People resist change.
Always. So the manager's job isn't just to force compliance. It's to architect a system that absorbs that change efficiently. These aren't just paper exercises. Establishing these objectives and managing that change, it's the bedrock of corporate ethics and continuous improvement. You're basically building an engine that learns.
Building an engine that learns. I like that. But, an engine is totally useless without fuel, and a strategic plan is just completely hollow without the right people to actually execute it.
Which bridges us directly into BMA 155.
Yeah.
Human Resource Management.
Yes. And I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least ask a provocative question for you listening. Because is HR just about hiring and firing, or is it the actual engine of a company? Because look at the landscape today. We are seeing companies automate massive chunks of traditional HR. Candidate screening, payroll processing, basic onboarding the algorithms, handle a lot of the administrative heavy lifting now. So what is a manager actually learning in a college HR course if the software is doing all the paperwork?
That is the million-dollar question. And the source text is very clear on this. They are learning the psychology of human-system interaction, which is something software simply cannot manage.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
The course explicitly positions HR as managing the organization's most valuable resource. So if the algorithms are handling the payroll and the benefits enrollment, the human manager has to handle the complex psychological drivers of the workforce. That's why this course is so heavily weighted toward things like organizational behavior and motivation theories.
Ah, so it's less about filling out forms and more about figuring out what makes your team tick.
Precisely. The curriculum covers recruitment and performance management, sure, but the underlying current is about workplace diversity and building an actual organizational culture. You have to understand why people work and how to align their personal motivation with the company's strategic goals.
Which is so hard when everyone is scattered. If you're managing a distributed team across 4 different continents, you can't rely on, free snacks in the break room or office proximity to build loyalty. You have to manufacture that engagement entirely through intentional touch points.
Right. You have to foster genuine employee engagement when your team never physically meets. It's a massive challenge.
So, okay, we've got the foundation, you have your strategy, and you have this highly motivated, diverse team ready to go. The immediate next critical step, the hurdle, really is ensuring these people can interact with each other in the outside world effectively and legally.
Yes, you need the rules of engagement, which brings us to the next 2 courses. BMA 135, Effective Communication, and BMA 165, Business Law.
Let's start with effective communication. And I'll play devil's advocate again here, because when I first saw a full college course dedicated to communication in this era, I was a little skeptical.
Really? Why is that?
Well, we live in an era of instant messaging. We have generative AI that can instantly draft our emails, translate languages in real time. It can even summarize our meetings for us. Interpersonal communication almost feels less like a hard skill and more like a software feature now. So do we really need a whole class on it?
It's funny you say that because I look at it from the exact opposite angle based on the source material. Because AI is commoditizing basic writing, like drafting standard emails, the value of nuanced, truly human communication has actually skyrocketed.
Oh, interesting. So because the basics are easy, the hard stuff is more valuable.
Exactly. The source emphasizes that because modern organizations operate globally, communication isn't just about sending polite memos. If the AI is drafting the standard updates, the human manager is freed up to handle the high-stakes, highly sensitive interactions. The course dives deeply into active listening, cross-cultural communication, negotiation techniques, and conflict resolution.
Right, the stuff that requires actual emotional intelligence.
Yes. Imagine you're trying to resolve a really complex supply chain dispute between a vendor in Shenzhen and a distributor in Frankfurt. Software can translate the words, sure, but it cannot navigate the high context versus low context cultural nuances.
No, it definitely can't. It can't read the hesitation in a vendor's voice.
Exactly. And it can't build the interpersonal trust required to salvage a multi-million-dollar contract. So this course is really about relationship architecture. It's about building strong relationships with international stakeholders.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. And it naturally leads into the guardrails for all those international negotiations. BMA 165, business law.
The legal boundaries.
Right. And I actually have an analogy I love for this. A lot of people view business law as the brakes on a company, right? Like the Department of Know That just tells you why you can't do something.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone thinks it just slows progress down.
But think about a really fast sports car. You don't have brakes on a fast car so you can go slow.
Right.
You have brakes so you can safely navigate tight corners at really high speeds. If you don't have them, you just fly off the cliff. Business law is the brakes that let a company scale rapidly without crashing.
That is a perfect way to look at it.
Yeah.
And the course unpacks exactly those legal principles. We're talking commercial law, employment law, consumer protection, and corporate governance.
And employment law obviously loops right back to our HR discussion, right?
Yeah.
You can't successfully manage a diverse global team if you're accidentally violating local labor statutes in 5 different countries.
Exactly. It's a minefield.
Yeah.
But the expert consensus in the curriculum, and a really critical component for a digital-first ecosystem, is intellectual property rights.
Oh, yeah. Because in a digital world, your physical assets are often negligible. Your entire valuation is based on your ideas, your algorithms, your brand identity.
Right, your data.
Mm.
If you don't know how to secure that intellectual property across borders, you don't actually own your company. So the whole point of this course isn't to turn business students into corporate attorneys.
Right. That would take way more than 1 semester.
Exactly. The goal is strictly about minimizing organizational risks. It empowers managers to make responsible corporate decisions, protect business interests, and maintain ethical standards. It teaches them to spot the legal fractures before they happen.
So they know exactly when to hit those brakes.
And, crucially, it teaches them when to call the actual lawyers before the company gets into real trouble.
So let's pause and look at our manager's toolkit so far. We've got the strategic vision. We have the psychological framework to motivate the team. We have the cross-cultural communication skills and the structural legal knowledge to scale safely.
It's a solid foundation.
It is. But we're missing something huge. How does a modern manager actually measure success? How do they process reality and execute tasks efficiently?
Right. How do they know if any of this is actually working?
Exactly. And that leads us perfectly into the data and technology side of the roadmap. The modern engine, BMA 145, Quantitative Techniques, and BMA 175, computer applications.
Let's start with the brains of the operation. Quantitative techniques.
I have to say, the traditional anxiety around business math is very real. But when you look at the syllabus for this, it goes way beyond basic math. It's descriptive statistics, probability, optimization, forecasting models.
It sounds intimidating.
It does. But the role of the manager has fundamentally shifted here too, right? Because we don't need humans to manually run complex regression analyses on paper anymore. The computers do the math instantly. So what is the human actually doing?
The human is interrogating the model. And that's actually the so what factor of this course. It is fundamentally about developing logical reasoning. By organizing and analyzing quantitative data, managers can stop guessing and start making evidence-based decisions.
Because in a data-rich environment, the danger isn't that you lack information.
No, not at all.
The danger is taking algorithmic output at face value, right? Like the AI hallucinates or the data pool is biased.
Precisely. Or the underlying assumptions of the forecasting model are flawed because the market did something unpredictable. If a machine learning model tells a manager, hey, cut supply chain funding by 20%, the manager needs the quantitative reasoning to ask, wait, what were the parameters of this optimization? What historical data was omitted?
Stop guessing, start interrogating.
Exactly. You become the critical filter between the raw data and the final corporate action.
But to do that at a global scale, you really need the right digital toolkit. You can't interrogate massive global data sets using a basic pocket calculator.
Which pairs perfectly with BMA 175, computer applications.
And I want to point out, this is not just learning how to use a word processor or make a nice presentation anymore.
Oh, from it?
The source text highlights some really cutting-edge topics. We're talking artificial intelligence, cloud computing, ERP, that's enterprise resource planning systems, cybersecurity awareness, and overall digital transformation.
It's comprehensive. And really, it ties the two courses together perfectly. Quantitative techniques provide the critical thinking, right? The logical framework. And then computer applications provide the modern technological tools necessary to apply that thinking at a global scale.
But I do have a question about this. With how insanely fast technology changes, aren't the specific software tools they learn today going to be totally obsolete by the time they finish their degree?
Almost certainly. But that's kind of missing the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
The course isn't just teaching them which specific buttons to click in a certain dashboard. It's teaching them the architecture of digital transformation.
Ah, okay. The underlying structure.
Right. If you understand how a centralized database interacts with cloud infrastructure to automate a workflow, it really doesn't matter what the software interface is called 3 years from now. You understand the fundamental plumbing of a modern organization.
So you're learning how to wield digital competencies to work efficiently no matter the tool.
Exactly. You cannot separate the critical thinking from the digital tools today. They are completely symbiotic.
Okay, so we've deconstructed this entire 18-credit curriculum. We have strategy, people, communication, law, data, and tech.
All 6 foundational courses.
Right. But there's another layer here, because how this massive amount of information is actually delivered to the student in today's world is just as fascinating as the content itself.
Yes, the mechanics of modern learning.
The delivery system from the source is a self-paced MOOC platform.
A massive open online course.
Exactly. And the key word there is flexibility. Students study anytime and anywhere. They're using ebooks, digital dashboards, all these online materials. But it's not just a free-for-all. The source details a very specific assessment strategy for every single course.
Right, it's a dual assessment method.
Yeah. First, you study the handbook and complete the learning activities. Then, you have to pass an online quiz, and you have to submit one full academic paper for every course.
And there's a very deliberate reason the university chose that specific combination.
Oh. Why is that? Because a quiz just feels like, a standard, did you read the chapter kind of check.
It is a check, but it's really evaluating immediate comprehension. It measures real-time learning progress. Think of it as tactical execution.
Okay.
In the workplace, this translates to your daily operational speed. Can you process a brief, recall the legal guardrails we talked about, and make a rapid, accurate decision to clear a roadblock?
Right. It tests knowledge retention under pressure.
Exactly. But you obviously can't run a company purely on rapid-fire tactical decisions.
Definitely not, which is where the academic paper comes in.
Precisely. The academic paper forces the student to demonstrate deep understanding through critical analysis, independent research, and structured writing. It's the equivalent of deep work.
So you can't just memorize your way through it.
No, you can't fake a 15-page synthesis on, the impact of AI on global supply chains. You have to step back from the rapid-fire channels and actually build a coherent, well-argued perspective.
It's a perfect balance, really. The online quiz proves you have the immediate knowledge, and the academic paper proves you know how to practically apply it through deep analysis.
It balances knowledge retention with practical application beautifully.
So for you listening, think about how these 6 foundational courses, management, HR, communication, law, quantitative techniques, and computer applications, think about how they interlock. Because together, they build a complete modern business professional who is genuinely equipped for the global stage.
It is a really phenomenal blueprint. But, there's a final lingering implication in this source material that I think we need to leave the audience with.
Oh, I like a good lingering thought. What is it?
Well, the program's motto is, study anytime, learn anywhere, lead globally.
A very strong mandate.
It is. But given everything we've just discussed, artificial intelligence, global connectivity, rapid digital transformation, these fields are evolving at an almost violent rate.
Oh, absolutely. The ground is constantly shifting.
So the provocative question to mull over is this. How might the very definition of a global leader change by the time a student actually finishes this degree?
Wow. Yeah, if the landscape rewires itself every few years, what does leadership even look like in 2030?
Exactly. Does management shift entirely from managing humans to managing complex human AI ecosystems?
That is exactly the reality we are accelerating toward. And it really challenges you to consider how you might apply this foundational mindset to your own continuous self-paced learning journey. Because the one ultimate truth embedded in all of this is that the learning definitely does not stop when you pass the final quiz.
The degree is just the baseline. The real test is how you adapt afterward.
Keep interrogating the data in front of you, stay curious, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, quick question for you. Did you know that literally 70% of international business ventures actually fail just because of poor cross-cultural management? It's wild, right? So today, we're going to explore how to fix that. We're looking at the exact blueprint of a modern global business leader. We're going to unpack the Bachelor of Business Administration and Management curriculum from the Universal Institute of Professional Management, or UIPM. Specifically, we'll be looking at their Semester 1 syllabus to see exactly how they construct this foundational toolkit for their students right out of the gate. It's a genuinely fascinating look at what it truly takes to succeed in business today.
So I really want you to think about this question for a second. What does it take to actually lead in today's dynamic global economy? Because, the modern global market isn't just about local sales or basic accounting anymore. It's this intensely hyper-connected arena where, say, a supply chain glitch in one hemisphere can completely tank sales in another. To conquer it, you can't just rely on generic business knowledge. You need a very specific, highly refined toolkit. You need the absolute confidence to lead organizations across completely different industries worldwide. And getting there? Well, that requires a structured, innovative approach to learning.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're breaking this curriculum down into 5 essential steps. First, the global landscape. Second, the core. Third, the engine. Fourth, the framework. And finally, the destination. Starting right off with Section 1, the global landscape. This is where the stage is set for a truly internationally designed program that prepares you for an interconnected world. Look, to navigate a world where AI algorithms are literally dictating supply chains, you just can't wing it. Semester 1 builds a rock-solid foundation by making sure students master 6 essential disciplines, ranging from analytical thinking all the way to business law. These aren't just standard subjects. They're the load-bearing pillars of any modern organization. Mastering these 6 specific disciplines is exactly what gives you the competence to confidently lead across worldwide industries.
Let's move to Section 2, the core, and see how this builds the absolute essentials, organizing people and ideas.
Every single successful organization out there, from a tiny startup to a massive multinational corporation, begins with effective management. So the crucial point is really understanding these 4 fundamental functions: planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. You can kind of think of these 4 functions as the operating system of a business. Planning sets the destination, organizing builds the vehicle, leading fuels the engine, and controlling keeps you on the road. Building this managerial mindset is the ultimate prerequisite for surviving in an increasingly competitive global environment.
But hey, managing isn't just about cold, hard processes. It's about people. And that brings us to what is arguably the most valuable skill in all of business: communication. We are definitely not just talking about chatting at the water cooler here. Modern managers need an entire arsenal. Sure, that includes the confidence for public speaking and razor-sharp report writing, but crucially, in an interconnected world, it means mastering active listening, resolving conflicts, and negotiating across completely different cultures and languages. You've got to be able to communicate effectively in any high-pressure professional environment.
Now we move to Section 3, the engine. This is where we pivot into data, digital transformation, and the core hard skills running the modern business.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing how digital technology has entirely transformed how organizations operate. In the computer applications course, students aren't just learning basic spreadsheets. They are diving into the actual powerful tools running modern enterprises right now. Artificial intelligence, cloud platforms, cybersecurity, enterprise resource planning systems, and data analytics. These are the engines that are genuinely driving modern businesses today. But there's a catch, right? All that tech generates a massive mountain of raw data. Quantitative techniques teach you how to refine that overwhelming noise into pure signal, using forecasting and statistical analysis to drive real, actionable strategic growth. By learning these methods, you transform raw data into incredibly meaningful information. You use those digital tools to evaluate business performance and support actual strategic planning. It is absolutely all about thriving in a data-driven business environment.
Which brings us to Section 4, the framework. This is where we outline the rules of the game and look at the incredible value of human capital.
And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate balancing act required of any global leader. On one side, you have human resources, recruiting and motivating your top talent to really drive innovation. But then, on the other side, you have business law. I mean, one lawsuit or compliance failure can sink a company overnight. You absolutely must understand contracts, compliance, consumer protection, and intellectual property. You have to protect your assets while simultaneously empowering your people. You really cannot have one without the other.
So, when you combine a deep understanding of human behavior with a strict adherence to legal responsibility, you arrive at the gold standard, ethical practices. In today's transparent world, ethics aren't just a nice-to-have. They are the absolute prerequisite for sustainable, long-term success. You simply cannot build trust and endure in the market without them, for sure.
Finally, let's head to Section 5, the destination. We've built this amazing toolkit, but where does it actually take you in the real world? Well, this isn't just academic theory. It's a launchpad. You start by absorbing these foundational disciplines as a student. That knowledge then elevates you into crucial mid-level operations roles. Maybe you're solving daily fires as a project or marketing manager. But the ultimate destination? It's taking those competencies and stepping up as a startup founder, a CEO, or an international executive. You are fully prepared for incredibly diverse careers across multinational corporations, consulting firms, and public institutions.
And this ties perfectly into the Universal Institute of Professional Management's mission, empowering global leaders through flexible online education. The big takeaway here is adaptability. This approach allows modern students to transform their raw potential into professional excellence from literally anywhere in the world without ever being tied to a physical desk. So we're going to leave you with this final thought. The global market is constantly evolving, driven by new technologies, shifting cultures, and complex legal frameworks. We've shown you the exact toolkit required to navigate it all, from fundamental management and cross-cultural communication to AI and business law. The tools are out there, and the path is clearly defined. The only question left is, are you ready to lead it?
All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are decoding the absolute foundational principles of management. Honestly, this is the ultimate, often invisible skill that takes a basic, raw idea and transforms it into a highly successful, thriving organization. Whether you're looking at a couple of folks building a tech startup in a garage or a massive global enterprise, this blueprint is exactly what we're going to explore today.
You've probably heard the phrase, great organizations are built by great managers. Well, it's absolutely true. Whether you're dreaming of becoming a CEO, a trailblazing entrepreneur, or a really sharp project manager, it is vital to understand one core truth. Success does not just spontaneously happen. It's carefully, deliberately engineered by effective leaders. Behind every Apple, Google, Toyota, or Amazon, there are people applying the exact principles we're about to dive into.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. What management actually is. 2. Why good management matters. 3. The 4 core functions. 4. A quick look at a century of management theory. And 5. Your future as a leader. Let's get right to it.
Section 1. What is management? Let's take a look behind the curtain.
At its core, management is simply the process of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling resources to efficiently and effectively achieve organizational goals. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but no, it's not just about bossing people around. Managers are essentially master coordinators. They pull together people, financial resources, technology, information, and, most crucially, time. They take all those disparate ingredients and mix them together to create real value for customers and for society as a whole. Pretty much every functioning entity on Earth depends on this exact process.
Moving on to Section 2. Why good management matters. Think of these as your modern survival skills.
Look, we aren't just running lemonade stands anymore, right? Today's managers are up against some serious heavyweights. Intense globalization, the rapid rise of artificial intelligence, totally disruptive digital transformation, and wildly changing customer expectations. And these aren't just corporate buzzwords, they're daily realities. To actually navigate all of this, organizations desperately need managers who can actively solve complex problems, make razor-sharp strategic decisions, and create a sustainable competitive advantage. Good management is literally the shield and sword an organization uses to survive and thrive in today's chaotic environment.
All right, Section 3, the 4 core functions. Welcome to the engine room.
These 4 steps, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, are basically the holy grail of management. And they aren't just isolated tasks you check off a list, they form a dynamic, continuous cycle. Every single effective manager uses this exact cycle to keep an organization moving forward. If you master these 4, you basically have the keys to the kingdom. So let's break them down.
First up, we have planning. This is all about determining your organizational goals and pinpointing the absolute best strategies to hit them.
Think of it like drawing the map before you start driving. Planning is where managers take a step back to analyze market opportunities, identify potential risks, allocate their resources smartly, and prepare detailed action plans. Without this crucial first step, an organization is basically just walking blindly in the dark.
Second is organizing. This means arranging people, responsibilities, departments, and resources as efficiently as possible. A well-designed organizational structure actively improves just about everything. I mean, when everyone actually knows what they're supposed to do and who they report to, it drastically improves communication, tightens up accountability, and skyrockets productivity. So if you drew the map in the planning phase, organizing is building the vehicle to get you there.
Then comes the third piece of the puzzle, leading. How do you actually get the best out of your people? Well, you do it by inspiring employees to perform at their absolute highest potential. Notice I said inspiring, not forcing. Leadership injects this vital energy into the whole system. A truly great manager does this by clearly communicating a compelling vision, motivating their teams when things get tough, swiftly resolving conflicts, and creating a safe environment that naturally encourages innovation. You've got the map, you built the vehicle. Leading is putting fuel in the engine.
And wrapping up the cycle, we have controlling. This is simply making sure the actual organizational performance is hitting those objectives you set earlier. Controlling completes the whole loop. Managers monitor the real-world results, compare that performance against their original targets, identify any deviations, and rapidly implement corrective actions to stay on track. It's basically keeping your hands firmly on the steering wheel and making constant micro-adjustments so you don't veer off a cliff.
That brings us to Section 4, a century of management theory. Let's take a quick look back at history.
Because, our modern practices didn't just magically appear out of thin air. Back in the early 1900s, Frederick Winslow Taylor kicked things off with scientific management, literally timing workers with stopwatches to systematically improve efficiency. Then Henri Fayol came along and gave us 14 principles of management, which really laid the groundwork for those 4 core functions we just talked about. But by the 1930s, Elton Mayo shifted the paradigm entirely. He demonstrated that employee motivation, teamwork, and workplace relationships profoundly influence productivity. It suddenly wasn't just about machines anymore. It was about the human element. So when we break down these eras, the huge takeaway here is that modern management doesn't just replace the past, it stands right on its shoulders. Today's modern thinkers are expanding on these historical foundations by bringing in systems thinking, contingency approaches, digital technologies, and AI. We absolutely still care about Taylor's efficiency and Mayo's motivation, but now we're applying them to a hyper-connected digital world.
And finally, Section 5, your future as a leader. Let's talk about what this means for you.
When you actually master these concepts, the results are incredibly tangible. We're not just talking about memorizing theories here. You'll be able to actively apply these core functions in real, complex business scenarios. You'll learn how to analyze tricky situations using solid theory, communicate super effectively, and deeply develop your own unique leadership and decision-making skills. It completely transforms you into an ethical, innovative, and globally minded leader who is ready to solve actual real-world problems.
And honestly, remember that these principles aren't just some isolated topic you check off a list. They are the literal bedrock for marketing, finance, human resources, entrepreneurship, strategic management, and international business. Seriously, if you don't understand how to plan, organize, lead, and control, you simply cannot succeed in those specialized fields. It's all connected.
So as you can see, management is way more than just an academic subject. It is the literal blueprint for surviving and thriving in a chaotic world. The foundational tools have been laid out right in front of you. So ask yourself, in a future defined by artificial intelligence and constant everyday disruption, will you be the one being managed, or will you be the one leading the charge?
Welcome back to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling a topic that honestly gets dismissed way too often as just a soft skill, but as we're going to see by unpacking the core curriculum of BMA 135, which is a foundational course in the Bachelor of Business Administration and Management program, communication is actually, well, it's the ultimate business superpower. Think about it. Every single business, decision, negotiation, presentation, report, and customer interaction, they all completely depend on it. In fact, if you look at most corporate failures, they aren't strategy problems at all, they are communication failures. Managers who actually master this, they don't just talk, they inspire trust, build real relationships, resolve conflicts, and drive entire organizations toward success.
All right, let's dive right in and see exactly how you can build this capability for today's hyper-connected global business environment.
Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to move logically through three main areas. First up, the foundation. Then, the application. And finally, the execution. Let's get to it.
Part 1. The foundation. Decoding the communication process. You know, we often think of communication merely as the physical act of speaking or, say, hitting send on an email. But actually, effective communication only happens when the intended message is clearly understood by the receiver, without any misunderstanding or confusion. So it isn't just about what you say, it's entirely about what is successfully decoded on the other end. Think of it this way. If your team misinterprets your urgent email as an angry email, well, the process has failed, no matter how brilliantly you thought you articulated your point.
Let's break down how this actually builds into a structured process with 5 essential steps. It always starts with you, the sender. You're the one creating the idea. That idea then becomes the message itself. Next up, you have to choose a channel. Maybe that's a quick face-to-face conversation, a phone call, an email, or jumping on a video conference. The message travels through that specific channel to the receiver, who then has the tricky job of interpreting your information. And finally, and honestly, this is the step that makes or breaks the whole entire system. We have feedback. Feedback is that crucial confirmation that tells you whether the communication was actually successful. Understanding this anatomy is absolutely vital. As a future manager, if you can visualize this mini narrative of how a single idea travels from your brain to someone else's, it's going to help you troubleshoot exactly why a message might have gotten lost in translation.
Moving right along to Part 2, the application, the professional toolkit.
Modern organizations demand some serious versatility across 4 main types of communication. First, verbal. This covers your meetings, interviews, and presentations. Then there's written, handling your business letters, reports, and proposals. Third is nonverbal, which captures literally everything you don't say. We're talking facial expressions, gestures, and tone of voice. And finally, digital. This has essentially become the backbone of modern work, encompassing emails, virtual meetings, and all those cloud-based collaborative platforms. And here's the kicker. Today's leaders can't just be good at 1 or 2 of these. They literally must master all of them, transitioning seamlessly from face-to-face negotiations right into complex digital workspaces.
There is a powerful idea that brilliantly illustrates one of the most overlooked aspects of that toolkit. Silent messages often communicate more than words themselves. When we talk about nonverbal communication, we're really talking about eye contact, posture, gestures, and tone. I mean, you could present an absolutely perfectly crafted strategic plan, but if you're slouching and actively avoiding eye contact, your team is going to decode a lack of confidence, period. The silent messages shape reality in the boardroom just as much as your spoken words do.
Drilling down a bit further, successful business professionals develop very specific skills within those broad categories. Now, active listening is heavily prioritized here, and that's for a very good reason. Listening carefully is what actually allows managers to understand concerns, gather valuable information, and ultimately make way better strategic decisions. Then, of course, you have clear speaking to express those ideas confidently, and professional writing to make sure reports and correspondences are accurate, concise, and organized. Next is persuasive communication. This is what enables you to motivate employees and negotiate tricky agreements. And finally, confident presenting. This is essential because as a manager, you'll regularly have to stand up and present financial reports, strategic plans, and organizational achievements to your team or stakeholders.
So let's compare how these skills are actually applied in different contexts. Navigating global boundaries requires a very distinct set of tools. Cross-cultural needs demand an immense respect for diversity, an understanding of language differences, and navigating varying business etiquette and negotiation styles. Honestly, global communication competence is one of the single most valuable skills in the 21st century, mainly because it drastically reduces misunderstandings and strengthens international relationships. Now, on the flip side, internal leadership needs focus heavily on inspiring people. Great leaders need to communicate organizational goals with a clear vision, provide motivation, ensure transparency, and professionally resolve any workplace conflicts that pop up. Both of these contexts require a ton of empathy, but they apply the toolkit in vastly different ways to build positive workplace cultures and achieve shared objectives.
And that brings us to Part 3, the execution, your BMA 135 roadmap. Now, this course is delivered through a self-paced MOOC learning platform, which gives you the ultimate flexibility to study independently on your own schedule. Think of these steps as your core actionable quests. First up, you're going to absorb the learning modules, reading the handbook, watching the instructional videos. Second, you really take charge of that independent learning. Third, you'll tackle an academic paper. This is your big chance to prove your critical analysis, academic research, and effective written communication chops. And finally, you're going to pass the online quiz to solidify and evaluate your understanding of all the content. Keep in mind, both the academic paper and the quiz are mandatory milestones you have to hit to successfully complete this journey.
And what exactly happens when you complete those quests? Well, you unlock these learning outcomes. I like to think of them as your professional achievement badges. Upon successfully finishing BMA 135, you'll be able to communicate professionally across a variety of environments. You're going to deliver persuasive presentations with genuine confidence, and you'll write highly effective business reports. You'll be totally ready to jump into high-stakes negotiations and apply effective communication practices. Plus, you'll be equipped to demonstrate active listening, communicate effectively across different cultures with real empathy, and seamlessly use modern digital technologies for professional collaboration. Basically, you're building a comprehensive, heavy-hitting arsenal for your future career.
Which leaves us with one final thought. Effective communication isn't just a nice-to-have. It is the absolute bedrock of leadership, innovation, and business success. By mastering the knowledge in BMA 135, you aren't just learning how to talk. You are learning how to lead organizations around the world. So ask yourself, are you ready to become a globally competent business leader? Because that journey starts right now, with how well you connect, listen, and communicate. We highly encourage you to dive right into your first learning module.
Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're stepping directly into the high-stakes world of modern business management. We're going to break down BMA 145, Quantitative Techniques. You know, if you've ever wondered how top-tier executives consistently make winning choices, whether they're managing massive multinational corporations, running local small businesses, or leading public institutions, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Consider this your initiation into the actual nuts and bolts mechanics of strategic leadership. So let me ask you something. How do successful businesses eliminate uncertainty? I want you to really think about that for a second. Because in the corporate crucible, guessing is the ultimate villain. When you literally have millions of dollars, thousands of jobs, and entire global supply chains on the line, just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best is simply not a strategy. You absolutely need a reliable system to cut through all that noise. Which brings us to Section 1, the data-driven business world. Okay, to really grasp the solution here, we first have to understand the environment we're operating in, right? Modern financial markets, retail stores, logistics networks, factories, they all run entirely on a massive, nonstop flow of information. We're living in a deeply data-driven economy. Relying on intuition alone, that's an outdated, super high-risk game that frankly just doesn't cut it anymore. The modern standard demands data, statistics, and models. Successful decisions require hard, objective evidence to solve problems, improve efficiency, and really maximize organizational performance. Honestly, the days of the gut-feeling CEO are well and truly over. Let's dive a little deeper into this daily data flood. Literally every single day, businesses generate absolute mountains of raw information. We're talking sales transactions, customer feedback, employee performance metrics, production output, financial statements, inventory levels, shifting market trends, the whole shebang. But here's the major catch. All of this information, it's completely useless unless it is properly analyzed. It's just static on a radio until you have a way to actually decode it. That leads us nicely into Section 2, the Analytical Manager's Toolkit. This is where we introduce the core techniques that are basically going to serve as your essential heroes toolkit for conquering all that business chaos. So how exactly do we decode that raw data? Well, we use quantitative techniques. By definition, this is the application of mathematical, statistical, and analytical methods to support objective decision-making in business and management. This right here is the exact superpower managers use. It's the process of converting incredibly complex, raw information into meaningful, strategy-driving insights. Basically, it replaces assumptions with evaluated, concrete evidence. Imagine you're drowning in a sea of data. Your first instinct should be to find the center. That's where descriptive statistics come in. We're specifically talking about measures of central tendency, like the mean, median, and mode. These help you quickly pinpoint the typical value within your dataset. It's a way to summarize massive amounts of information into a compact form that you can actually interpret, understand, and use to compare business results. But hey, just knowing the typical value isn't quite enough, is it? You also really need to understand the extremes. That's why measures of variability, things like range, variance, and standard deviation, are so absolutely crucial. They teach managers exactly how widely data values differ from one another. By understanding both the center and the spread of your data, you get this crystal clear, high-definition picture of your actual organizational performance and any underlying trends. Now, even if you have perfect historical data, we all face one harsh reality. Managers rarely know exactly what will happen in the future. Business is just inherently uncertain. The stakes are incredibly high, which is exactly why probability becomes our next essential tool. Probability allows us to systematically estimate the likelihood of future events actually occurring. So, what does this look like in the real world? Well, if you're a bank, you use probability to assess credit risks. If you're an insurance company, you use it to estimate potential future losses. In agriculture, weather forecasts heavily influence supply chain planning. Mastering probability allows incredibly diverse industries to systematically evaluate risks and prepare highly effective strategies for an unpredictable, uncertain environment. And that brings us to Section 3, predicting the future. You see, the ultimate goal of all these tools isn't just to understand what happened in the past, right? It's to forecast exactly what happens next. Forecasting is arguably one of the most valuable quantitative tools you can have in a modern organization. Businesses desperately need to forecast future sales, customer demand, inventory requirements, workforce needs, production capacity, and overall financial performance. By transforming historical data into these highly specific future estimates, managers can dramatically reduce waste, prepare their resources efficiently, improve customer service, and, ultimately, drive sustainable growth. Now, when you finally have all the data and the forecasts in front of you, you're almost always faced with multiple alternatives. That's when we rely on a structured decision-making model. Step 1, evaluate alternatives. Step 2, compare the costs and benefits. Step 3, allocate resources efficiently. And finally, Step 4, select the strategy that maximizes performance. This structured, step-by-step approach guarantees consistency, transparency, and accountability, mostly because it's based entirely on objective evidence rather than just blind guesses. All right, moving on to Section 4, course requirements and tools for BMA 145. Let's ground this whole narrative back into reality for a second. How are you actually going to master these skills in this course? Well, it starts with the fact that digital literacy has become an absolute, non-negotiable competency for every business professional. Modern quantitative analysis is practically impossible without digital technology. You simply cannot process today's massive data sets with just a pen, some paper, and a calculator. No way. Technology is the ultimate lever here. Throughout the course, you're going to become deeply familiar with some really essential digital tools: Microsoft Excel, business intelligence dashboards, graphical data visualization software, cloud analytics, and even some AI-powered reporting. These tools empower managers to process, analyze, and visualize much larger datasets far more accurately and efficiently. It's an instant upgrade for organizational reporting and strategic planning. Okay, so what is your specific path to success here? The course is actually delivered through a self-paced MOOC platform, which allows for really flexible, independent learning. But there are a few mandatory steps you've got to hit. First, study the modules carefully and complete the practice exercises. Second, submit an academic paper. This requires you to analyze real business problems using quantitative methods, all supported by credible academic references. And third, pass the online quiz, which rigorously tests your understanding of the core concepts and your actual problem-solving applications. I want to stress that achieving these competencies isn't just about passing a class to get a grade. It's about permanently upgrading your professional toolkit. By mastering these outcomes, analyzing data accurately, interpreting business info, evaluating risk, developing forecasts, and solving managerial problems through evidence-based thinking, you're preparing yourself for some seriously advanced careers. We're talking finance, marketing, operations, consulting, entrepreneurship, and top-tier strategic leadership. I want to leave you with this final, incredibly powerful thought. Data drives decisions. Knowledge creates leaders. Quantitative techniques empower you to transform raw, messy data into clear knowledge, and then turn that knowledge into decisive strategic action. So as you step out into this data-driven world, ask yourself, are you going to be the leader who navigates the future with precision and hard evidence, or will you be left guessing in the dark? The choice and the toolkit is now entirely yours.
Welcome to the Explainer for BMA 155, Strategic Principles of Human Resource Management. I'm so glad you're here. We're about to take a really visual, structured journey into what this whole course is really about.
You know, it's so easy to look at a massive, successful company and think, oh, they're winning because they have a slick product, or they have this untouchable tech stack. But honestly, the truth is way more fundamental. Every single great organization is built on people. Full stop. And that is the core premise of BMA 155. Today, we're going to break down exactly how organizations manage their human capital to skyrocket productivity, fuel innovation, and secure that long-term success.
Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. We'll be moving through 5 stages. 1, the paradigm shift. 2, the core mechanics. 3, the digital upgrade. 4, the blueprint. And finally, 5, the horizon.
All right, Section 1, the paradigm shift, rethinking HR. So it's time to debunk some seriously outdated ideas about what HR actually does. Historically, people just viewed HR as personnel management. You know, the folks hidden away in a back office, managing records, pushing paperwork all day. But modern strategic HRM, it's an entirely different beast. Today, it's all about building capable workforces and directly driving business strategy. It's not a back office support function anymore. It's literally frontline business leadership.
So how do we formally define this? Well, human resource management is the strategic process of attracting, developing, motivating, and retaining talented employees who contribute to organizational success. Really think about that phrase for a second. Strategic process. Your employees are your absolute most valuable strategic asset. I mean, you can have the best business plan in the world, but without the right engine, the right people, that plan is going nowhere fast. HR is the engine that maximizes human potential to hit those big organizational goals.
Moving right along to Section 2, the core mechanics, the employee life cycle.
Let's look at how this actually plays out day to day. Think of this life cycle as a sequence of mini-stories where human potential is unlocked. Step 1 is recruitment and selection. This is where the magic begins, figuring out staffing needs, interviewing, and finding people who don't just have the right skills, but who actually share the company's vision and values. A stellar onboarding experience can boost employee retention by over 80%. Getting the right people in the door from day one reduces turnover and sets the foundation for literally everything else.
But look, the journey definitely doesn't stop once a contract is signed. Continuous learning equals global competitiveness, period. Organizations have to continuously invest in training and development to level up technical skills and leadership abilities. Training helps folks crush their current day-to-day tasks, but development, that's what prepares them for future leadership. In today's fast-moving global markets, a workforce that stops learning is a workforce that gets left behind.
Then we have performance management, which honestly completely reframes the whole dreaded annual review thing. Instead of just some arbitrary grade handed down once a year, it's a continuous, vital feedback loop. It clarifies organizational expectations, provides constructive coaching, pinpoints strengths and weaknesses, and it actually supports big decisions around promotions and compensation planning. It's about coaching someone to absolute excellence, not just handing them a report card. And all these mechanics, they culminate in one really powerful truth. A positive culture breeds collaboration, innovation, trust, and long-term commitment. You literally cannot just mandate productivity. You have to cultivate a work environment where a diverse workforce feels respected, valued, and completely empowered. When HR successfully drives that motivation and champions a healthy culture, you get teams that are fiercely committed to the organization's success. Next up, Section 3, the digital upgrade, modern HR technology. Because all those core mechanics we just talked about, they are getting a massive digital overhaul. We're talking about a serious modern tech stack here. Cloud-based HR information systems, self-service portals for employees, artificial intelligence scanning resumes, digital performance analytics and dashboards, and comprehensive learning management systems. HR isn't just a people skills discipline anymore. You really need some serious technical fluency. These digital tools allow HR professionals to make faster, entirely data-driven decisions while totally upgrading the day-to-day experience for the employees themselves.
Okay, Section 4, the blueprint. Course expectations.
Let's break down exactly what's expected of you academically in BMA 155. Your learning environment is totally modern. The course is delivered through a self-paced MOOC platform, which is great because it gives you the flexibility to study whenever and wherever. But hey, with flexibility comes responsibility, right? Your day-to-day expectations mean you need to read the official HR handbook, complete all the video lessons and modules, roll up your sleeves to analyze practical HR case studies, and really engage in independent critical reflection. You've got to put in the consistent work to truly master this stuff.
To successfully complete the course, you've got 2 mandatory deliverables. First up is an academic paper. This is a written submission where you'll need to show off your critical thinking, do some solid academic research, and practically apply HR concepts to a real-world organizational situation. Second is an online quiz, taken right on the MOOC platform. This one evaluates your broad understanding of HR principles, practices, leadership, and organizational behavior. Both of these are absolute requirements.
Finally, Section 5, the Horizon, Future Careers.
So why are we doing all of this? Where does mastering BMA 155 actually take you? Well, it prepares you for some incredible careers. We're talking roles like Human Resource Officer, Talent Acquisition Specialist, Training and Development Manager, HR Business Partner, or an Organizational Development Consultant. Ultimately, though, this is your toolkit to become a future business leader. The competencies you're building here, designing recruitment strategies, running performance systems, boosting engagement, using digital HR tech, these aren't just academic checkboxes. This is exactly how you build high-performing teams and drive sustainable success in literally any business you step into.
I want to leave you with this core philosophy. People are the heart of every organization. Human resource management is fundamentally about unlocking human potential. It's about creating an ecosystem where the people and the business grow together in perfect harmony.
So, as you get ready to dive into your learning modules and case studies, I want you to keep this one provocative question in the back of your mind. As a future leader, how will you unlock the potential of your people? The tools and the strategies, they're all waiting for you right here in BMA 155. Now it's time for you to go out and learn exactly how to use them. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and enjoy the course.
Welcome to this explainer on BMA 165, Business Law. So, if you're an aspiring manager, an executive, or an entrepreneur, you might be carrying around this assumption that law is just something you only need to worry about if you're an actual attorney. Well, we're going to shatter that myth right now. Did you know a massive percentage of really promising startups fail, not because they have bad products, but because of entirely avoidable legal missteps? Yeah. The high-stakes reality of the modern corporate world is that every single decision you make as an executive, from hiring a new employee to launching a digital product, it has a very real legal ripple effect. You literally cannot lead effectively without understanding the rules of the game.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is how we're breaking things down today, basically giving you the ultimate roadmap to navigating the modern global economy. First up, the business legal framework. Second, your course roadmap. Third, navigating the digital economy. And finally, we'll wrap up with the career opportunities this knowledge opens up for you.
All right, Section 1, the business legal framework. Let's look at the foundational rules of commercial activity. So, technically speaking, business law is defined as the body of laws, regulations, and legal principles governing commercial transactions, business organizations, and relationships between businesses, customers, employees, governments, and stakeholders. I know it sounds incredibly formal, right? But let's contrast that super strict textbook definition with the practical, everyday reality of management. Business law is not just about what happens inside stuffy courtrooms during some big trial. It's the absolute foundation for conducting your activities safely and responsibly every single day. It's literally how you establish binding contracts and manage your daily operational risks. You can really think of this knowledge as your corporate shield. Instead of just playing defense and dodging lawsuits, knowing the law actually empowers you to actively protect your business assets, ensure legal compliance, and reduce commercial risks. It helps you support ethical practices, protect your consumers, promote fair competition, resolve disputes peacefully, and maybe most importantly for growth, strengthen investor confidence. And why does all this matter? Well, because without this shield, organizations are totally exposed to devastating financial losses, heavy regulatory penalties, and complete reputational ruin in what is an incredibly complex global economy. Every successful business depends on these sound legal practices for long-term survival.
Moving right along to Section 2, your course roadmap. Let's look at the BMA 165 syllabus.
So the crucial point here is what you're actually going to master to build and secure a business legally. Think of the first part of your syllabus as a step-by-step blueprint for building a company from the absolute ground up. Step 1, you have to understand the sandbox you're playing in, meaning the legal systems and courts, and how business disputes actually get resolved. Step 2 is basically the lifeblood of commerce, forming contracts. You're going to learn exactly how contracts are formed, interpreted, and enforced by mastering the mechanics of offer, acceptance, and consideration, as well as the remedies for a breach. And Step 3 is establishing the actual organization.
Whether you're setting up a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporation, or an LLC, you absolutely need to understand the distinct legal responsibilities of the owners, directors, and managers who are holding the reins.
What's really great about this approach is how it translates those dense legal concepts into a direct, practical action plan for managers. For instance, we take employment law and we turn it into actionable workplace rights, safety protocols, and anti-discrimination strategies. We take intellectual property and use it to lock down your hard-earned innovations, like patents, copyrights, and trade secrets. And we take consumer protection and turn it into a solid strategy for maintaining fair competition and managing product liability. It's all about taking the theory of law and applying it directly to your everyday business execution.
Now, as your business scales, the legal environment shifts pretty dramatically. On the domestic side, your focus is heavily on business ethics, corporate governance, running internal compliance programs, and managing local risks sustainably. But the second you step onto the international stage, the training wheels totally come off. The sheer complexity scales up immensely. You're not just dealing with local regulators anymore. You're managing complex cross-border commercial transactions, navigating incredibly tricky import and export regulations, drafting international contracts, and figuring out international arbitration.
All right, Section 3, Navigating the Digital Economy. This brings us to the modern edge of commerce.
I want you to project yourself into today's rapidly evolving tech-driven corporate landscape for a second. What happens when your business exists entirely in the cloud? Just sit with that for a moment. The traditional rules of brick-and-mortar commerce have been completely turned upside down. Transactions are happening in milliseconds across global digital platforms.
The legal landscape is honestly sprinting to keep up with these new realities. We're not just signing paper anymore. We're validating electronic contracts with digital signatures, all while dodging global cybersecurity threats. You've got to navigate incredibly stringent privacy and data protection laws and figure out how to protect your intellectual property in a purely digital environment. And think about this, when your company uses artificial intelligence to make hiring decisions or relies on blockchain technology for its supply chains, who is legally responsible? Now, what's really interesting about these digital realities is that they aren't just IT issues anymore. They are absolutely essential management survival skills.
Which brings us to Section 4, Career Opportunities. Let's talk about your tangible return on investment.
Look, whether your goal is to become a corporate executive, a compliance officer, an entrepreneur, or a procurement manager, this knowledge is quite literally your gateway. It is highly sought after across banking and finance, technology, healthcare, logistics, and inside massive multinational corporations. If you truly understand business law, you can navigate risks and add immense value in practically any of these sectors. You essentially become that invaluable person in the room who knows exactly how to move a multinational business forward safely.
The Universal Institute of Professional Management has a motto that carries incredible gravity for anyone stepping into a leadership role: understanding law, managing business, leading with integrity. True business success isn't just built on aggressive innovation or market disruption. It fundamentally relies on a rock-solid foundation of ethical decision-making, legal responsibility, and creating sustainable value for society while building real trust.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. In a business world that is moving at the absolute speed of code, will you be the one caught off guard or the leader who confidently navigates the risk? Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Now get out there, conquer the BMA 165 course, and master the legal toolkit of modern leadership.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer for BMA 175 Computer Applications. Now, you know as well as I do that in today's hyper-connected world, technology isn't just some helpful tool sitting in the background. It is literally the heartbeat of any successful organization. If you want to truly grasp how modern business operates, you absolutely have to understand the digital systems that are driving it. Whether an organization is managing complex finances, digging into customer data, or making massive strategic pivots, computer applications are the indispensable engines making the whole thing happen. So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start off with Section 1, the digital business landscape, then move right into 2, why computer applications matter. From there, we'll explore 3, inside your digital toolkit, take a look at 4, tech in the real world, and finally wrap up with 5, future-proofing your career. Let's just jump right in.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the digital business landscape, and the massive shift we're seeing in business today.
The traditional rules of business, yeah, they have completely shifted.
So, to set our baseline here, what exactly are we talking about when we say computer applications? Well, it refers to the software programs and digital tools we use to collect, process, analyze, store, and communicate information to actually get business tasks done efficiently. Think of it as the complete life cycle of information. It's how we gather data, make sense of it, and then use it to make better, faster decisions.
And this brilliantly illustrates the situation. Today's professionals face what's basically a dual mandate. On one side, you've got understanding management principles, the classic foundational theories of how to run and organize a company. But on the other side, you have using digital technologies. And the thing is, today, these two concepts absolutely cannot exist in silos. You have to combine them. You literally must use digital tech to execute those management principles, which is what ultimately drives productivity, collaboration, and innovation across the board.
Moving right along to Section 2, why computer applications matter, particularly when we talk about efficiency and reduction. Okay, so we know what these tools are, but why is this digital transformation so critical to an organization's actual survival? Why does it matter? Well, imagine for a second that you're launching a new product. You need to automate routine manufacturing tasks, you're using cloud tools to collaborate with a global team, and you've got to analyze some incredibly complex financial data just to make sure you're profitable. Technology does all of this heavy lifting effortlessly. Organizations rely on it to support really high-stakes strategic decisions, enhance their customer service, protect sensitive digital data, and just drive pure innovation. In a fiercely competitive environment like we have today, possessing digital literacy isn't just a nice-to-have bonus anymore. It is a fundamental survival skill.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 3, Inside Your Digital Toolkit, where we master the how. So here is how your knowledge is going to actually progress through the coursework. Step 1 starts with the essentials, systems and productivity. We're talking about mastering hardware, operating systems, word processors, and those spreadsheets you need for financial calculations. Then, Step 2 elevates you into databases and cloud computing, so you'll learn how to retrieve huge volumes of info and collaborate securely online. From there, Step 3 introduces management systems and cybersecurity, teaching you how to lock down sensitive info from cyber threats while you monitor performance. And finally, Step 4 pushes you right to the cutting edge with emerging tech, things like AI, big data, and blockchain. And remember, these aren't just abstract technical concepts. These are the exact weapons you are going to wield in your career. Now, you're definitely going to encounter a bit of an alphabet soup of acronyms along the way. MIS, DSS, ERP, and CRM. So what do they actually do? Well, these stand for Management Information Systems, Decision Support Systems, Enterprise Resource Planning, and Customer Relationship Management. Together, they basically act as the central nervous system of an organization. They're the specific platforms that allow managers to monitor overall business performance in real time and make some highly informed decisions. Which brings us nicely to Section 4, Tech in the Real World, where we see these tools in action. Let's just take a quick walk through a modern company to see what this looks like day to day. You've got the managers who are glued to real-time dashboards to monitor team performance. Meanwhile, down the hall, financial analysts are building these massive forecasting models and spreadsheets. Over in marketing, they're decoding shifting customer behavior using data analytics. Human resources, they're securing global employee records in the cloud. And at the very top, you have executives relying on powerful business intelligence platforms to steer the entire ship. As you can see, literally every role is empowered by a specific digital tool. And within the real world, we absolutely have to talk about artificial intelligence. AI is no longer science fiction, folks. You really need to think of it as a tireless 24/7 digital employee. Businesses are out there actively using it right now to automate customer service, predict upcoming market trends, optimize incredibly complex supply chains, detect financial fraud the second it happens, and just massively improve operational efficiency. It's really the prime example of how emerging tech is solving very real, highly complex business problems today. And finally, Section 5, Future-Proofing Your Career, which is all about the real-world payoff. This brings us to the most important part, the real-world payoff. And I want to pose this question directly to you, the future business leaders tuning in. Where will these digital skills actually take you? Because the sheer breadth of today's digital economy means that mastering computer applications doesn't lock you into one single path. It opens the door to dozens. Like I said, you aren't locked in. With these skills, you could become a systems analyst or a data analyst, maybe a digital transformation specialist or a project coordinator. You could even take all of this and launch your own venture as an entrepreneur. Multinational corporations, financial institutions, and healthcare giants are all desperately hunting for this exact skill set on a global scale right now.
So, the crucial point is this. It all boils down to 8 core learning outcomes for this course, and they span everything from utilizing basic productivity software and analyzing spreadsheet data, all the way up to evaluating those emerging technologies and implementing basic data protection. Mastering these 8 outcomes means you've successfully done the absolute hardest part, which is perfectly combining your foundational business knowledge with real digital competence.
We're going to wrap up this explainer with a concluding motto taken straight from the Universal Institute of Professional Management syllabus, empowering future business leaders through digital innovation. Because, understanding technology is important, for sure, but leveraging digital innovation, that is where true power lies. So as we finish up today, I really want you to ask yourself, how are you going to leverage these digital tools, not just to participate in the modern economy, but to create unprecedented value and maintain a fierce competitive advantage in your own career? The toolkit is right in front of you. Now it's time to build.